Oh, guys, woohoo, Monday Mojo. So exciting. So probably a little bit of noise out the back today. We've got all the doors open to let all the light in, all the fresh air. We've had some really rainy weather lately. But we're back onto it. So I hope you guys can hear me. Welcome to this week's Mojo, a really special one, actually. It's all about quantum decision making yet again. And I wanted to use these weeks to really tap you into your fullest potential and understand where your personal roadblocks might be happening. So if anyone's listening, can give me a thumbs up. I want to make sure that I'm all going here. I think it's all good to go. Today's session is about the value of trusting insight rather than hindsight. So predominantly what happens when we have our first bust up as kids, that kind of gives us a chemical and emotional reaction to avoid pain. It makes us avoid any kind of conflict or drama. And then we get set in this pattern that creates kind of an internal roadmap for how we deal with people, places, and things that isn't necessarily the right way to do things. So it can actually put a governor, which is like the thing they put on rental boats when you want to rent a speedboat. They put a governor on the engine so you can only go a certain pace. And that's essentially what happens when our ego starts coming into our world. We kind of get a governor on our engine and we're limiting our true potential because at some point in time we were told we weren't good enough, it wasn't good enough, and we have blame, shame, guilt, betrayal, even being not chosen for a sports team, whatever it is, and we get silenced. So that moment that you get silenced is kind of like a knee-jerk reaction that your soul goes, oh, I don't know if I want to go there again. So today's session, I want to teach you how to understand the 4 quadrants of valuing vision and insight over just relying on hindsight. I do want to reference a podcast that I've done with Steve Teague, author of Future Proofing. He talks about how people buy all this money to look at trends, which is stuff that's already happened in the past, but we're not really looking at what we can create and what vision is in the future, because the past is the past. So yes, it's good to understand certain trends and cycles, but that doesn't necessarily mean we have to stay in those cycles. What are we going to do differently? So on today's Mojo, I hope you have signed up on the vitalitycoach.com.au on the blog so that you get the email from this as well and the replay of the video. And also, if you're watching now, welcome. Please hit the like and subscribe button below, that little notification bell, so when I do more lives we can hang out together, and it's going to be really fun. So I've also done one of my Nikki drawings for today, my usual stick figures, and this is going to be the quadrant. It will be on my Monday Mojo as well. I'm just going to put things up as I've originally designed them, way before they get into all the fancy stuff that I do with my worksheets, because I just feel that's so valuable. So today I want to talk to you about courage, conviction, and connection. It's that bit where, when you've seen something and you're like, oh God, I can't unsee that anymore. And then that's it. It could be like a terrible joke or whatever it was, or just maybe you've seen your neighbor, you don't want to unsee that. So once we've had a realization that what we thought was great actually isn't that good. And normally this comes out of a huge moment or an awakening or an epiphany. I like to call them Nikiphanies. If you're clients of mine, you'll know about Nikiphanies. You start to have this kind of little inner voice going, well, hold on a second. I might be challenging everything that I've known. And that's the whole point of what I like to work with, is why do we expect different results if we keep doing the same things? So whilst a lot of people like to hang on to the past as reasons why not to do things, you're only limiting yourself from your truest potential. So first of all, you have to understand what is self. And if you haven't watched Reverse Mojo or Interdependence, where I talk about the difference between self-talk and self, I recommend that you do that. They're all on my playlist. And also have a listen to Eckhart Tolle's New Earth, one of my favorite books. I always recommend it to people because I think it really allows you to see when Eckhart's standing on the bridge, he says, who's asking me these questions? We often have these split personalities. So knowing the difference between self-talk, which is that noisy ego kind of like constantly energizing and needing attention to make a decision, to that quiet, calm knowing That's the real art of mastering your quantum self. It's so cool. It's so powerful. And that's probably why we haven't been taught it until this point in time. So let's just come back. There's a fine line between past and patterns. So why do you think that people like to get stuck in stagnant energy, or they like to stay safe? You know, they like to have two walls around them, because that's the devil we know, right? So it's easier to stay in a situation where we can fight harder and we can exhaust ourselves, but at least we know it. So the unknown quality of insight makes people really wobbly. It makes people feel afraid to change. At least they know this amount of stuff, but to actually do something with foresight or vision or insight, you don't really know what's going to happen. So you have to surrender. Now, surrendering is a large roadblock for humans. Most people are taught to try and control their environment, whether it's a people, it's a place, it's a product, it's a project, it's a profit. Everyone likes to know exactly what's going on, which is very ironic in today's society, where we get drip-fed information from the powers that be, you know. So our need to know is actually an antithesis of what goes on in our world, where there's not really the full transparency of information. So we're constantly kept in a holding pattern. And that holding pattern is really exhausting. It creates a lot of stress, and it doesn't empower. That holding pattern of needing to know everything disempowers you. I want to say that again. The holding pattern of needing to know anything, of not making a decision until you know everything, disempowers you. And I always like to refer to the Marine Corps, because those guys have taught me so much in that little time I spent with them. But when you go out as a 1st Battalion, or you go out to do a mission, you don't always have all the information. You can make an informed decision on the information that you've got, but then you have to trust and hear. So the art of real leadership is this deep sense of knowing. It's that heartbeat. It's that deep connection to all your senses, not just what we get delivered on a piece of paper, not just what someone says on a television screen to us, not just what happened to us last year or 10 years ago. It's about trusting and hear. And that's really what makes a great soldier. It's what makes a great warrior. It's what makes a great leader. It's what makes a great coach, a great parent, a great friend. It's just going, and I fuck all the detail, because there's something really, really important, which is this just feels like I should do A or B. Now, when you start to go towards that feeling, it will amplify and start to grow. So yourself, your gut, your intuition, your nous, N-O-U-S, it's the atom in your heart. Like any muscle, your heart is a muscle. So when you use your heart, it actually grows, right? So like any other muscle in our body. So when you utilize insight and nous, N-O-U-S, and that atomic ability to make decisions from heart and head combined, wow, is that powerful shit. That is just so awesome. And that's really what today is all about. And that's absolutely the space that I operate in, which is, you know, we've all come through the trenches. We've all been covered in mud. We've all earned our stripes. But you have to make a decision. Do you want to operate from vision or victim? Do you want to go, all right, well, I've got this amount of information up here. Here's the head-based stuff. And then I've got this amount of feeling in my heart. I'm going to blend those things together, but I trust myself. That is the art of adulting. That is the art of really stepping into your true potential and understanding, just like last week's interdependence, that there is no other person like you on this planet. So all of us have been given this divine, incredible abilities, like beyond what we've even tapped into, but we're so constrained that we only operate in like a McDonald's Happy Meal environment. But when you really take those shackles off and you start to access all the dimensions of self, that's when you're really powerful. Let me give you an example. So you might be inspired by certain leaders that always seem to be doing visionary things, and they kind of follow it through and they make it happen. Let's just take Elon Musk, or you could take Sir Richard Branson, whether or not you like what's in the news, these incredible, or even Barack Obama, whoever you want to choose, have created their vision of their own reality. And then not only have they thought that, they've followed it through and created it against what anyone else was doing. So they've pioneered things. And that pioneering ability comes from the ability to blend heart, ideas, creativity, vision, knowing, sourcing, all that kind of magical stuff with head, the practicality to get things done. So blending heart and head. Very important in leadership, especially if any of you are growing your businesses right now, you're looking at changing your personal decision-making, whatever is going on, you need to have the courage to go, there's a different way of doing things. So that's what insight is. Insight is that tiny light on the runway that gets lit up. And you're like, ooh, what's down there? And you start to follow it like a truffle dog, right? So, but what happens is a lot of people get presented that light time and time again. They get presented this light down the runway and they're like, oh, wow, that looks really intriguing. And ooh, but then they're like, oh, no, I don't want to go there. I don't even know what's at the end of that runway. It could be horrible things. It could be filled with terror and blame. And I just can't deal with that. So they lose connection for the intrigue and the courage and the curiosity, and they default back to fear. So that's when the self-talk and the ego comes in. Now, a lot of people that suffer from addictions and things that numb out feeling are trying to avoid going through that pain barrier, and I'm not saying as well, this is, by the way, it's not always as simple as mind over matter when you're dealing with something like that, but I will say that you must learn to know what you think. You must learn to know what you feel, what you want, and what you need. So think, feel, want, and need. Very important things. There's 4 quadrants to understanding your true self. And then you've got to have the conviction. So insight is knowing there's a light at the end of the tunnel. The conviction and the courage is to go and sniff what that looks like. The challenge is it can be a little bit of a lonely road because most people like to stay in the safe zone. It's like being part of an NFL and you're doing the last run and there's throwing a long ball and you don't even know who's down the lineup. You just know you've got to throw this ball and you're hoping and wanting and wishing and visualizing that your teammate is right up there ready to catch that ball and make a touchdown, right? It's that trust. It's that knowing that you guys have trained together time and time and time again and that you're in the championship and you know that that person is committed to doing exactly what their job is. And that kind of trust is even if you're blindfolded, you're going to throw that ball straight down the line, smack, someone's going to get it because that is the knowing. That's the absolute light down the runway that you know that someone's going to be there, that you have to trust yourself, trust your teammates, and trust those around you. However, that does mean the 4th quadrant. So we've got the courage to understand the light at the runway. You've got the connection, the think, feel, want, and need. You've got your conviction. This feels really scary, but I can't do anything other than give this a go. Something is pulling you. Something is going, hey, just take a look around this corner. Stop doing the same things and expecting different results. It's not going to work. And you've probably read something somewhere, or maybe you've listened to one of my podcasts, or you've picked up something by Dr. Joe Dispenza, or you've just read a quote, or something's happened in passing. That's the universe giving you a sign that you need to stop and listen and shift your ship a couple of coordinates. Now, I want to say this is really to do with huge leadership as well, because most of the people I work with are working in tens of millions of dollars, and that money has to flow through our society, our community, our countries with all the right values attached to it. So there's a huge responsibility that comes with leading an organization, leading a team, building a community, building a country, building new aspects of how our new earth is going to look like. That means you can't do it on the old operational hard drive. You have to be willing to evolve. We have to be willing to open our minds, open our hearts, open our eyes, and see what universal runways are being lit up for us, right? Very, very important. We can't just sit there and wait for things to happen. So let me think about the best place to go from here. I think the best place to go is what is the conversation you're having with self and what is the conversation you're going to have with others. When we do start to change, our ego, which is, mine's called Bob, always name your ego, sits there insidiously and it does push-ups in the background and it waits for that one moment where you get a speed wobble or you get tested. Now, one of the interesting things when you're rebuilding relationships in your life, the first relationship starts with yourself, but the second ecosystem is realizing that most of people around you, you've either become fiercely independent or you're unknowingly codependent. So the whole dynamic, the whole conversations, the whole way you've set up these systems has been kind of a co-reliance on this victim mentality. And when you start to go forward with vision, you'll find that people will start pushing you harder, or you'll get challenged a lot more to do things differently. You must have the courage to follow the lights down the runway. You must have a roadmap to keep you connected to what you want. You must have the conviction to articulate the one next best step, not all of them, just one. And then the next thing is understanding the conversation that you not only have to have with yourself, which is, hey, I've got this, but also saying to other people, I'd really like to honor my boundaries and to give this a go. So that in itself is a really, really scary thing, is that when you're truly stepping into your authentic self, when you're truly coming out, when you're truly given a shove by the universe to understand all your capabilities and your life purpose, there is no going back. But it's really, really scary because you will be challenged by the closest people, places, and things around you, because not everybody gets woke. And the fact that you are aware and the fact that you do see more lights down the runway is already alienating, because it takes you off your current course that was comfortable. You were comfortable with the discomfort. You were comfortable with sitting there until something shoved you, and then you try and fight it and it shoves you again, and you'll try and resist it and it will give you another nudge. So until you actually surrender and you start to replace the fear of change with curiosity, you'll stay stuck in this stagnant cycle. Some people call that karma. Some people just call that laziness. Other people call it fear of change. But when you're truly going through leadership and you've only got one life, this isn't a dress rehearsal, there is no other way and there's no going back. And the most important thing is just know you're supported. Just know that there is no rushingness. There is no speedy process. It's not like a spiritual MBA where you can go from module 1 to 10. You have to surrender to the process, and you have to, what I call the difference between the snowy white owl and the eagle. So the white owl is observant. It looks quietly. It's got a swivel head. It just sits there. You don't want to get too close to it because probably it's got a sharp beak, but it's quite beautiful and mesmerizing, and it takes its time to survey the land. Whereas an eagle is a hunter. It soars above and it's fast and it uses all the thermoclines and it's darting around and then it goes in. So all too often we're taught to be an eagle. We're taught to hunt, to go after something and to be kind of aggressive about something. Whereas at the moment when you're going through this transformation, is you need the quiet, you need the solitude, you need the space to separate reality, like what really is going on, from your response. So this is part of my quantum decision-making coaching, is getting people to understand the space between reality and response and how to create that breath of fresh air, that the knowledge that you've got stored within you can rise up and be accessed at any given point in time effortlessly. Let me just say that again. When you create space between reality and reaction and you trust yourself, you allow the knowledge that you have inside of you at any given time to rise up instantly and be available. But you must do it calmly, grounded, and out of chaos. Now, our world has become chaotic on purpose, and on purpose confusion, and on purpose over-confirmation of information, and on purpose over-stimulus. So why do you think the century at the moment in our generation is so connected with figuring out meditation and retreats and time to break away when we've just been given that with COVID? You have to learn to master the art of retreating into self within a nanosecond, not flying on a plane somewhere, but being able to go within and have that insight that is the complete combination between head and heart. And that's really, really what quantum coaching and quantum decision-making is all about, is about learning about self and then uncovering layer by layer by layer the skills that will give you the aptitude, the ability, and the awareness to truly step into all your gifts It's pretty exciting, but it's also very overwhelming, and you can get the speed wobbles because the language that you start to get downloaded to, the information that you start to access, it critically changes. The way you look at people will change. The masks will come off. Who you have sitting around your boardroom table, who's managing your finances, are they adding value? What about your legal team? What about your friends? Who's lifting you up, or are you stuck in a cycle of always having this complaining, victim, whinging kind of same conversation day in, day out? Where is your growth? Who is adding to that growth, amplifying who you are, and actually encouraging you to keep going in this life? Because your evolution is essential, and it's not really something you can resist once you've started that journey. So once you see, you can't unsee. But the most important thing with insight is going slow. So let me just wrap this up with those quadrants. The first quadrant that you have is this courage quadrant. The courage to go, that light on that runway, that tiny light in the sky, that little beep, I'm going to follow that. I know I'm going to put everything else aside. I'm going to put blame and shame and guilt and fear and all the stuff that normally comes up. And I'm going to go, what's just around that corner? The next thing is connection. Is having the ability on any given thing to stop and go, what do I think? What do I feel? What do I want? And what do I need? 4 quadrants. You must be multidimensional. You can't just think and not do the rest. You can't just feel. And most people do the needing and the thinking without the feeling. So very important to be connected to how you're actually feeling, thinking, wanting, and needing for any given subject. The third quadrant, which is really, really important, is conviction. Okay, even though this is way out of my comfort zone and I don't even know where this is going, it's completely unknown, I trust and I'm going to do it anyway because something inside of me says yes. That little quiet voice is like, you got to do it. And that's when you come to people like me because we're your navigators and we go, right, we'll open up, we will keep adding lights. I always say to my clients, I'll keep adding another row of lights to the runway for you, but just do this bit first. And when you've got that beautiful pillar solid and grounded and cemented, then another light will open up. But if you rush that too fast, it's a fake through. It's not a breakthrough. So don't speed this process up. And the last and very important one, I think, when it comes to this inner work is knowing when you have to take it to your outer world. This is an inside job. There is no rush to come out and wave your certificate of awakening around and go, I'm going to be a new type of leader and I know what's good for the company and we have to reshuffle everything and family, we're going to do things differently and I'm going to actually pursue love in my life and I understand this. You've just got to go quietly and go, what is the conversation I need to have with myself first? And cement that behavior. Go within. Cement your new habits. Trust yourself. Learn the difference between self-talk and self, the black wolf, the white wolf, right? And learn the difference between being an owl and an eagle. Are you observing and being discerning or are you swooping and hunting? Very important because taking that energy back and reclaiming that for yourself and quietly finding your inner voice is the best investment you will ever make because when you make decisions from the innermost part of this quadrant, you cannot go wrong because truth is like cream. It always rises to the top. So when you're in your truth, it is not only good for you, but it's good for everyone else in the ecosystem. But when we're constantly trying to manipulate and we don't have the courage to say what we think, feel, want, and need, then the speed wobbles kick in. So remember, insight is an inside job. It's understanding that you have to blend your nous, your heart and your head with your knowledge together. And that experience and knowledge is different from past patterns that are holding you back. It's an understanding and an acknowledgement that there's more out there. It's the courage to step into that and go, I'm not only being a different person, I'm willing to evolve as myself to my highest potential. So everything that got you to this point, that's not thrown out. It's not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. But you must understand the difference between a fake through and a breakthrough, between courage and conviction or fear right? So always come from curiosity. That will keep giving you extra lights on the runway. And understand that you don't have to go from 0 to 100. There is no fast speed. It will not work. You must just go one brick at a time. And by doing that, you will cement and ground all your learnings, all your access, all the knowledge, and allow your path to be lit up before you rather than trying to force it and fit into something that no longer works for you. So remember, insight is allowing you to foresee a path that you can create and design that will be right for you rather than trying to fit in with something that no longer serves you. And whether you like it or not, chances are if you're listening to this already, my Mojo, you know that there's not only more out there, but there's more for you and there's more of you to tap into. So you need to be around the right people, the right type of love, the right type of projects that amplify all your abilities on this human planet, all your leadership abilities, all your creative abilities, all your communication, your talents, your heart and soul, everything that makes you up needs to be engaged right now, because that is what makes you so special. So if you're walking around on 2 cylinders, I say go to 8. You know, if you're walking around as a kind of a low 3rd gear diesel engine, I say take it to V8. Take the governor off your engine, take the roadblocks off your engine, and start understanding that you are in the driver's seat. You're no longer a passenger. That's your self-talk. Take the reins back, do the work, and understand that by starting with these quadrants and by starting to know the difference between insight and hindsight, regret, shame, blame, there's a certain amount of understanding with trends, but you don't have to keep making the same mistakes. So recognize the past, but don't repeat the patterns. Very, very important. Recognize the past and I used to be like that. I used to be stuck in that feeling. I used to get triggered by that, but I'm taking the reins back because this is what I want. And you're allowed to, you deserve it, and you should fulfill your destiny, because God knows we need lots of great people on this planet with the best amount of money circulating in this world for the greater good. And that's probably you that's listening to this now. So step up, see the light on the runway, take one row at a time, and reach out too. You can email me on nikki@thevitalitycoach.com.au. You can send me a message on Instagram at Fogden-Moore. You can join the vitalitycoach.com.au. You can find out about the quantum decision-making program that I'm running. It is reserved for experienced and established leaders. So I like to work on the really, really, really next level, but it doesn't mean there's lots of learnings and things that we can share on this channel. So thank you for tuning in. I always try and keep it under half an hour for these lives because I know everybody likes to be productive. I don't like to use the word busy. But if you've got questions, I'd love to hear from you. And if you've got feedback on what you'd like to hear about, and I would try and do my very best to bring more of how I coach into my shows, to be fearless with this focus, to stand here for you, to light up the runway, to be the wind beneath your wings, while you realize that you hold the key to your destiny. You hold the key to who you are. Don't worry about what anyone else is doing. Take the time and the space between your reality and your reaction to really get to know yourself, because that is your greatest asset. Not all the other stuff and the paperwork and everything else. You are your greatest asset. So the best groundwork you can do is invest in self, learn about your insight, understand the heart atom, that your heart is a muscle. So it needs to be generated, worked, utilized in accordance and in collaboration with your head, with your knowledge, your experience, your insight, and your intelligence. All right. So thanks for joining in, guys. I hope this really helped. I'll probably make a transcribe of this available as well. But please hop over the Monday Mojo blog. Will go out 2 emails. You can sign up on the vitalitycoach.com.au to get all the details about this as well. And I'm really excited to start doing these lives. It's a little bit out of my comfort zone, and I would try and be more forthcoming with the quantum decision-making work that I do. And remember, for those of you that are in cap raise stage at the moment, you're realigning your businesses, I want you to really think your go-to-market message has to be in alignment. So don't come from fear and lack, but think, what are the grounding pillars that make this so special? How can I articulate that? What is our courage to make this work, our connection on the why it's there, our conviction to see it through, and also the conversations you're going to have with other people. So reach out if you need help on any of that. You stay healthy, wealthy, and wise. And I really appreciate all the support. Please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. And until next time, stay vibing high, guys. Thanks so much. Bye.